Hello everyone, it's me Clayson. I just finished watching Escape Room Tournament of Champions, which has Zoe and Ben returning from the last film to try and shut down the company responsible for creating the deadly escape rooms once and for all. And much like Saw 2, I actually think this sequel is a bit better than the first one, though not without its own flaws. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story takes place after the events of the first escape room, to the point where the film even has a previously on segment. And we see that Zoe and Ben are traveling to New York to find out the coordinates for the company responsible for the escape rooms that killed the 4 people who were with them in the first film, only to find themselves locked into even tougher escape rooms with 4 other people who have also survived previous encounters with this company. So, our heroes once again have to find a way through these escape rooms where a mistake can lead to your death, while also trying to find out more about this company and finding out how to bring them down for good. But that's all I'll say about the story. The story here is a pretty logical addition to the first film, especially with its big sequel baiting, and I do think that Zoe and Ben are developed more in this film to the point where I actually got to care about them. Granted, there are still 1 or 2 characters who I felt were a bit annoying and a bit stupid, much like in the first film, but one of them doesn't last very long, and the other one doesn't get too involved to the point where I don't really think they are that big of a deal. On top of that, I think the escape rooms here are even better than the ones in the first film, and that has to do with the movie's excellent production design. Anyone who's gone through an escape room knows that attention to detail is absolutely necessary to make the puzzles feel worthwhile. And you can definitely see that when it comes to how these rooms are laid out, especially since there is actually a pretty decent story behind these rooms this time, which is something I felt the first film kind of lacked, even though the rooms in the first film are still pretty good on a conceptual level. On top of that, I really do think that while the film does end with another sequel bait, it does feel like this one does raise the stakes a bit more in comparison to the first film. Not to say that the stakes weren't high in the first film, it just felt like it was missing an X factor that really hooked me for this being a franchise. I wouldn't say this one will hook everybody, but I do think it's one that was effective for me. Also, I do think that while some of the characters' decisions can be a little boneheaded, it does feel like these rooms are a bit more complicated to the point where they would misunderstand things, or they would make mistakes that seem logical, even if some of them do feel like they just get too impatient, or they feel like they're going for senseless sacrifices. But there were plenty of those in the first film, and honestly, they spend less time on that here, probably because this movie has a pretty short 88-minute runtime. And that's with the credits. So a lot of this movie goes by a bit quick. So it does get a lot of the annoying moments of the first film over with quickly, but it does mean that some of the emotional moments don't really land because they have to feel a bit condensed to get the story rolling along. So I don't think the pacing is terrible, it just felt like it was a little too quick on a few accounts. Plus, some of the escape rooms do initially seem impossible to design without someone dying in the process. But given the company responsible for it, I wouldn't be surprised if someone did die and they just didn't care while designing them. So yeah, Escape Room Tournament of Champions won't win over any new fans, but if you liked the first film, you should like this one a little bit more. That's why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. See you next time.